Welcome to Spirit School. I'm your mentor, Danielle Sarank, also known as the Squamish Medium. In this podcast, I share honestly all I have learned about the mediumship and spiritual development journey. My intention is to normalize these conversations, to make way for a more confident, clear, and connected wave of lightworkers, serving the world of spirit with an open and joyful soul. Welcome again to Spirit School. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spirit School. This is your September Spirit Messages. But first, I just have to say, I am so excited. I am interviewing Aboriginal medium Sean Leonard in just a few days, and this is the absolute highlight of my career. I tried to get him on my podcast last year and he said yes, but it just never worked out timing because, as you know, he has a TV show called Spirit Talker. He's hands down my favorite medium of all time, living and dead, to be honest with you. I absolutely adore him. So I'm very excited. You're going to get one other podcast episode between now and then, which is about my journey of developing mediumship to be a developing, student of mediumship to going part-time to eventually going full-time in my spiritual practice. And so that will be the next podcast episode. And then it will be the interview with Aboriginal medium Sean Leonard. And that will be available both through the Spirit School podcast, which you're listening to now, or YouTube as well, if you want to watch a video of it. So couldn't be more excited. That's happening on the 6th. And then, what can I say? I'm just super excited about it. Now, when it comes to September and the spirit messages that were coming through, it's interesting because I will say that the feelings I get around September are going to be very unclear. There was two things that were coming up for me when I was tuning into the energy of September. The first one was going to be unclear, like feeling like we're on the top of a ball and not quite knowing which way it's going to roll. I feel that there is so much divine free will at play right now that you couldn't even predict what's going to happen in September, because what happens is going to be completely determinant on people's divine free will choices. And I'm not talking about V's or anything like that. I will never talk about that on any of my podcasts. And I will never show my hand on where I stand on all that either. So that is not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is, when we're in a world right now where all the buzzwords are like alignment and purpose, and, we feel so out of sorts, not knowing which way is up and down, we can tend to feel like a failure. But what I would love to say is if we can kind of go back to simpler times before we even were aware of words like alignment and purpose, we were living okay. And so what I encourage people to do for the month of September is to go with the flow. It's a month to go with the flow. Whatever is happening around you, to you, for you, all that fun stuff, it is going to be part of your spiritual development. Okay. So the first card I pull up, of course, I always use John Holland's Psychic Tarot, my favorite deck ever. It's all around spiritual strength. But if we are in a position where we're continuously trying to control things, even trying to control people's opinions about what's going out there, it's opposite of what we need to spiritually grow and evolve, which is the state of surrenderance and the state of understanding and being aware that we don't know all that is happening and all that is at play. We can't get into our creator's business, right? But what I will say, what I feel very much with coming into this month is going to be around learning to let go and learning to not control. That's what I see happening so much. Like I can feel it in my chest. It's like everyone's not only trying to get control of their own lives, but people are also trying to control other people's like opinions. And they're also trying to control other people's like insights. It's like everyone's walking around like, I know the truth. I know the truth. And I just encourage people to be a little bit more flexible around it, because we don't know. Right? We have our own personal truths that really kind of are based off of our past experiences, which also is like a moral compass of where we're going to next. But that's different person to person to person. And so I feel that if you can surrender, let go of that grip and control on life at this time, and just go with the flow of the energies in your life, the rhythms that are appearing before you. You will see spiritual growth from that, because the growth is in the cracks. The growth is in the space between the controlling moments. And take it from somebody who is a chronic controller. Like if you ask my parents, like even 2 years ago, like what I was like compared to what I'm like now, it's night and day difference. I used to try to control everyone around me, every situation, everyone's timelines, like everyone's plans. It was so exhausting for me. And it started to really mess with my nervous system. And that's what a lot of you who are listening, because you guys are sensitive beings, are experiencing, is like this control is messing with your nervous system. And so the second word that I was getting when I was tuning into September energies was around health. And of course, it made sense to me, it being mainly Virgo season and Virgo ruling the physical body, right? It made sense to me. But I will say that the sense that I kept getting was around the nervous system. And so, if we can be very intentional with our energy heading into September, I really believe the more work that we can do on leveling out the nervous system and not activating it so much as a collective and even in your own world, that's going to serve best what is to come. So that is go with the flow. So that is ebbing and flowing and riding the waves, the cosmic waves and the energetic waves and the waves that are created from the people around you, because we don't even have control of the energy of the people around us, right? So like that's how little in control we actually are. And what I have seen very much, especially in the past 2 months, is so much control out there. Just so much of it. And it does mess with the nervous system. So please just heed that call. Just, take what I say and leave what doesn't resonate with you. And that's all fine and dandy as well. So I definitely feel that's coming up. I have to go to my throat chakra as well. And it's very, okay, this is coming up as well. So the other thing that's coming up is there's a lot of anger in the throat chakra. This is how I feel. Okay, so I was immediately drawn to my throat chakra, just so you guys know, especially who are developing, and it went really tight, like it was like squeezing. And the sensation that came over me was like anger. And so I will say, when I tune into that, I feel very much that there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of anger because you don't feel safe speaking up. I can see that. Like there's a lot, again, opinions and controlling thoughts out there without a doubt. And a lot of people are just choosing to suffer in silence and to hold their tongue. Now, this is creating disease. So this is sore throats. This could even be like a cold of some kind coming on related to the throat area. This could be shortness of breath, even not getting clear airways out there, not even getting like a big deep breath in. But there's so many people out there who are choosing to suffer in silence because the alternative is like not fun. So what I will say around this is you don't have to suffer in silence. Even if you can find a couple friends that you can just like vent to clear out that throat chakra area, that's also going to be very beneficial for you. I have a group of moms that I talk to about all the things that kind of go on in my head that don't have to do with spirituality, to be honest with you, because none of them care that I'm a medium. They never ask about it. They never have received a reading from me. Like they're not interested in any of it. So I get to talk to them about all the human stuff going on that isn't related to my mediumship practice, and it isn't related to my spiritual mentorship practice, and just the human stuff. And they're my sounding board, and they just accept me and my opinions for how I come, even if there's non-agreement. It's a very, very safe space. So I invite you, if you do resonate, if you have been feeling that kind of like throat chakra tighten up and like this lack of expressing yourself because of fear of judgment or fear of argument or fear of anything like that, try to find one or two people that you can just safe space vent to. Okay, I highly, highly recommend that. Please know that that's kind of coming up as well. Yeah, guys, I will say I was feeling very positive and hopeful about September, but even tuning into my Instagram audience before I opened up this video and audio to record the spirit messages, I could get a sense that there was a lot of disruption out there. There was a big mixed bag on how people were feeling about heading into September. I will also say, I know in the States, a lot of the schools went back, but where we are in Canada, they go back in a couple of days. And of course, there's a lot of concern and uncertainty around what that's going to look like. And so it makes sense on a collective that there's a lot of disruption in the air as well, and that will continue for September. So again, if you care about your nervous system, if you care about your health, you're going to want to ride with the flows and release control where you really don't have any. Right. So what you can control? You control how you spend your time. You can control how you spend your energy. You can control like who you choose to spend time with other than the workforce, unless you're willing to have a career change or a job change of some kind, right? You can control your mindset. You can control what you choose to think about, right? Or what you ruminate on, which definitely impacts the nervous system. So those are things that you can control. Right. And so I really want you to tune into that and feel my words I'm saying, because sometimes the suffering that we experience is a little bit self-inflicted, again, triggered from outside of ourselves and out of our control. But how we navigate and negotiate that is completely our responsibility and our control. So I feel like September is going to be a big test for people out there on how they're showing up and how they're showing up for themselves. Okay. So just really heed that. Right? Like I'm already being flexible. Like I'm launching a program in September, like a big program. I have 26 people signed up already. Like it's a big one. And I know that what happens in the next few weeks could totally flip that upside down. And so I have to be okay that I don't know what's coming up. I have to be okay riding with that ebb and flow. And I know that the way that I work and the way that I energetically set up my practice is I've only attracted people who are also going with the flow. Right. And so, yeah, that's going to be, if I could sum up even September in one phrase, it would be go with the flow and you will find your most peace without a doubt. Yeah, it's going to be a bit mixed bag month, guys. It would be really interesting to get people to journal daily. Like I use the Soul Care Planner. I can't recommend it enough. I would actually drop a link below to pre-ordering your 2022 one, because it's the best journal I've ever had in my life. I don't need to promote it too much, but I did a whole podcast episode on it last year, the interview with Sarah McCormick, Following Your Dreams. Check it out to get more of a rundown of what the Soul Care Planner is, but you can keep track daily of how you feel. You can do that with any journal, but it also has the moon phase and the cycle and the cosmic cycles in there, so you can keep track of it at a deeper layer as well. But I bet you September, how people are going to be feeling is going to be one day awesome, the next day not so great, one day super enthusiastic, the next day very apathetic. Like I feel no 2 days are going to be the same in September. It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. It's going to be a roller coaster of events. And I want to prepare people for that. Now, I'm not looking forward to it. I was hopeful about September, but as I'm tuning in now, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a bit wild. Now, to give you some context too, I typically have ebbs and flows that last weeks, not days. So I'll be like riding a wave of positivity and abundance for like 2-3 weeks. And then I'll have a week of that ebb where I kind of like recede and I don't have a whole lot of motivation. I don't do a whole lot. So to have kind of my intuition pull from the ethers that it's not going to be weeks, it's going to be day by day by day, that could really mess with someone. So I feel by the end of September, we're going to be feeling like a little bit tired, to be honest with you. And again, this isn't going to be for everybody. When I do these spirit messages, I'm not trying to hit 8 billion people, right? I put my intention out to the world of spirit to really say things that are going to impact or prepare people who are going to be drawn to listen to this. So that's, I think like 10,000 a month is typically what I get people downloading. So you guys will probably feel this a little bit better. And when you know better, you do better, right? I will say too, one thing that spirit is really bringing to my attention is around visualization, right? Like using the third eye, using the imagination center to really kind of like check out for a little bit and like daydream. Like don't be afraid to daydream of the life that you're bringing forward, because we're all working towards a life that fuels us, right? We're all working towards that. There's no one who's not trying to achieve something. And so during the time where there's just like you don't know what's happening the next day, spirit is really encouraging us to daydream a little bit here and visualize like what 1 year from now is going to look like. Where are you? Who are you hanging out with? Like, what do you look like? How do you feel? What do you have around you? Who's around you? Really use that imagination center, because that's starting to kind of like, I'm going to use this word because it's coming to me, but like repair the energy around you, right? Because what happens is that things will come up and we'll so much focus on the things that are not really working out very well. And all that does is attract more like energy. And so spirit's being very aware, like, don't forget these tools that you have, that you can also visualize the best, or look at the good things that are coming and focus that energy and radiate that energy to kind of like repair the energy around you and attract more of that, right? Just kind of manifestation 101 here. You guys, I'm getting a lot of conflict cards, right? Mental conflict kind of coming up here, feeling like two people. Again, I feel like this is really around the energy of not knowing what's happening day to day. But if you think about it too, guys, that's really been our life for the past 18 months, right? 18, 20 months. It has been a bit like that, right? So it's not going to be all that different. I just feel like there's going to be some things that kind of like intensify a little bit, which again, I'm living in this world too, right? Like these, I wish I was picking up some better things. I tell you, I pulled this card 3 different times. So I'm just going to take it because I keep putting it back. Like, come on, there's got to be some more awesome cards that come up. But there's a lot of heart chakra stuff coming up with this, right? So there's going to be a lot pulling on your hearts this month. So just be very wary of that, in the sense, I hate saying wary of that, but be very aware that there could be a lot coming up in the heart chakra space as well. And so for my empaths out there, the people who identify as being empathetic, you'll really want to have your practices up that keep you feeling like grounded and centered. We were just talking about this on Instagram. And one thing that I do tell people when it comes to grounding and centering your energy is that there is no one size fits all practice. You really need to look at a lot of different ways that you have heard of or researched on how to ground and see what works for you. As an example, smudging is not going to be an energetic resonance for every single person on this planet. I will say that the 2 things that ground me more than anything else, one is cedar brushing. So using a live cedar bough that still is attached to the tree to brush my body. It's a teaching that one of my elders gave me years ago when I first started experiencing energy sickness in this work, and not so energy sickness being not quite knowing or understanding how to center my own energy and be of service at the same time. And the second thing is salt. And so for me, salt baths are huge. I'm not a big bath person, period, but I use Dr. Teal's Himalayan salt bubble bath. And then I also have Epsom salts. And I love salt baths. It really does help ground my energy. There are people on Instagram here who are saying, I don't even have a bath. Well, even just putting like a bucket on the ground with some salt and putting your feet in it, those 2 things really help me. Some people it's earthing. It's literally putting your feet into the earth. Other people it's essential oils. Other people it is smudging and using smoke. Some people it's visualizing roots and white light. Like there are so many different ways that you can ground. And again, what works for one is not going to work for another. And alternatively, as well, what worked for you last week might not have the same effect today. And so you do want to try a few things that really work for you and have a bit of a tool belt to call upon when you want to use some grounding practice. One thing I feel like saying very much for you guys too is, and it's going to be very important for September, because this wave that we're going to be riding is really going to rub people the wrong way. So I do feel that there's going to be a little bit more conflict out there in relationships and friendship circles, in work. So what I want to really prepare you guys for is to pause before you react. Now, this is tough for people like me. Like I'm used to being a people pleaser. I am recovering/recovered. So I'm very aware of how it used to play into my life. But one of the ways it used to play was filling up every second with sound. Like I couldn't be in a group of people and have a minute of quiet. I would feel so anxious. I would have to fill that void with a voice. Alternatively, too, I used to react if people were asking me questions. I wouldn't even take a minute to pause and reflect and think and feel into it because I was so used to being activated and filling up all spaces. And so, in saying that, what I feel very much we need to do to live as harmoniously as we can in the September energy is going to be really taking pauses before we respond. Okay. And even if you want to respond with something that you're very, very passionate about, we need to open up our awareness to how our words, our phrases, our thoughts, our opinions affect those around us. And we really have to get real with, is this the energy and effect that I want to leave in the world, right? If we look at every interaction and every moment as a piece of our legacy, is that the legacy that I want to leave and the imprint of energy I want to leave into the collective or into this person's life? Right. And so I ask you to really reflect upon that before sharing, speaking, addressing. Right. I hope this makes sense. But Spirit's really wanting us to learn to kind of take pauses and tune in and check in before responding. And I will say that this is a big message for me as well, because I have found myself being a little bit more responsive than I used to in the past couple of days. So typically, again, these spirit messages may feel like they're for me too, because they are, and they often draw, much like in my mediumship, parallels to things that I've recently experienced that I can call upon that will benefit the collective. I love Dougal Fraser, how he talks about the teacher is literally a week ahead of the student. Couldn't be more true in the cases of these spirit messages. So again, I experienced a lot, as you can imagine, being a mom, a business owner, a wife, like, a friend, a sister, a daughter. There's a lot that I do experience, but they don't call upon everything. They just call upon some recent things that will impact and land on the people who are, drawn to listen in. So overall, with September, it's going to be a bit of a ride. I will say, even just like tuning into October a little bit. I'll do October, of course, next month, but I do feel like it's going to be calmer. So just know that. Okay, so we'll tune in October, and some of you might be like, I have the best September ever. Good for you. I'm so excited about that. I am. And I hope that is the case for you. And I hope that's the case for me as well. But for the rest, do know that this will come, and I hope that you can recall some of the tips and tricks and techniques that I talk about within this to try to be as harmonious as possible in this really crazy, chaotic energy. And if I could sum up all of this in just a few phrases: go with the flow as much as possible, right? Go with the flow. Think about the legacy and the imprint that you want to leave on this world, and be cognizant and aware of that through every interaction that you're going to be having. Okay. And just think, is this the impact I want to leave on this friendship? Is this the impact that I want to leave on my audience? Like, really think about that as part of your overall legacy, because we live in the days now, you can't take things back, right? Like, things are out there and they stay out there. There's no control alt delete where we're at right now. So take a minute and pause around that, right? And then also around surrendering control and really being aware that control is another way that fear lives through us. And so we really want to surrender control and think that we know it all, to be as happy as possible, to live great lives with great relationships as possible, right? And really being aware around this sense of control that it actually makes sense. Of course, we think of fall, we'll be heading into fall within this month. We see the leaves taking form. We see them dying and falling to the ground, releasing and letting go. So if we live in natural rhythm with what, Mother Earth is doing, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, I do have a lot of listeners in Australia and New Zealand as well, but in the Northern Hemisphere, the nature is teaching us to release and let go. And what a breath of fresh air, and what a surrenderance to the nervous system we could have if we can learn to release and let go of the things that we think that we know. So I'll leave all of that there. I hope these spirit messages didn't bum you out too much. And I hope in many cases I am wrong. I truly, truly do. But let's buckle up. right? It's been really the theme for the past like 20 months, and we have survived. And in many ways, we have thrived, right? So reflect on that when you're choosing, you have control of your thoughts. You can think about the last 20 months as being crazy, or you can look at how much you have actually grown and evolved in your life, in your relationships, if that is the case for you. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about with this episode is the initiation circle. um I'm trying to get better at letting you guys know how you can work with me. I don't like advertising or selling or marketing or anything like that, and I haven't had to do too much of it in my spiritual practice. But what I will say is that I have received at least 50 applications for mentorship this summer. And so I can only take on so many, as I'm just one person, especially in that one-on-one realm. And there was a time last year I was able to take on every single person who applied, but the volume has really picked up. And so I have filled up all the spaces with women who are already in the initiation circle, because they're my people, they're in my community, and I have prioritized those applications. So they're the ones who have kind of gotten in. And I will say too that it might be how I do my mentorship moving forward. If the demand is high enough in the initiation circle that they want my mentorship, like every 4 months, I open up more slots, that may be the only way that you get through to one-on-one mentorship with me. I'm not saying that for certain. That's just a thought that I've been having lately because the applications have been so high. So in also saying that, if you were interested in working with me and getting mentorship from me, the initiation circle, which is my monthly membership, is really the space to do that. I am in that community every single day. I answer every single thread. I teach a ton of classes in that space. And if you join, you actually get 14 months of content that we have done in the past year. Like, that's a smoking deal in itself. Like, you would be busy for 3 months just catching up the replays on what we've done. There's a lot that happens in the community. I'm not going to list it all out here, but I did want to say that there's a new process to join. I'll have the link below. It's $111 a month Canadian. You get a little mini course that will help prepare you to do readings, mediumistic at least, but the community has more than just developing mediums. It actually has people in it who don't want to be readers. They feel like they may have some intuitive abilities and they just want to be in a space with like-minded people. So I have a lot of people who are joining for those reasons as well. We also have people who are learning Akashic records, who are learning angel connections, who are learning medical intuition, human design, pet communication. Like, there are light workers of all walks and modalities in this community. So there's lots of monthly classes. You got the community, you got the whole bank of past replays. You get access to me and my teachings and my mentorship, and I respond to everything that happens within that community. I was unsure if I was going to continue with the community because I'd been doing it for a year, and that's a big commitment for me. And I wasn't 100% sure I was sold on doing it for a whole nother year, to be honest with you. But just as I was considering and playing with the idea of potentially dismantling the membership, I had 37 people join in 2 days. And so to me, following the cookie crumbs that Spirit leaves me, that's very significant to me that Spirit wants me to continue with the membership. So I have done a 180, and I am going to be throwing all of my energy into this beautiful community. So we're going to be having events coming up in October, which are going to be called the Medicine Lodge. And this is a space for women to share their medicine with one another in a big group atmosphere. So if you want to practice your demonstrations of mediumship, this is going to be the space. If you want to do a group Reiki healing, this is going to be the space. I will be practicing my angel healing sessions in the space, as well as demonstrations of mediumship. And it's just going to be a place to give and receive different medicines. We do group practice readings together. We do readings for the public once in a while. So this is for people who are ready to take that next level and practice on what we call muggles, right? Out in the community. So my audience, you will read for them. We have guest mentors. I teach different master classes on different topics. And we also have incredible women in the community who also teach classes. So we have an aura class coming up. We have a class on testimonials. We have a class on medical intuition come up. We even have a class on manifestation coming up in September September and October. So lots going on, super low price. You can cancel anytime, but this right now really is one of the only ways that you can work with me, which is why I wanted to bring it up on this podcast. And of course, the calling, but you'll hear more about the calling on the next podcast episode, and registration is open until September 21st. So you don't have a whole lot of pressure there. But with the initiation circle, you can join anytime, cancel anytime, hassle-free. And hopefully I'll get to see you there. We're at almost 100 members right now. I just can't even believe it. So that's it for your spirit messages for September. I hope you enjoyed them. I always love hearing the validations come through from you guys that things make sense for you. I hope that even though the overall energy and overall messages weren't necessarily positive in air quotes, but there were different things within it that you can learn how to handle and navigate some of these uncertain times with dignity, with compassion, with true inner peace. So love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode, and we'll catch you later. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirit School. If you did, please leave me a review and a rating wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you do feel called to share this with your friends, thank you for tagging me on Instagram at Squamish Medium so I can also share. It really helps get the word out about the podcast. If you're interested in working with me in my one-on-one mentorship, a reading, or all the various programs that I run, you can go to squamishmedium.com or check me out on Instagram at Squamish Medium. The link in the bio has everything I am currently working on in service to the world of spirit. Have a great day, guys.